broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Houston, Texas. It's time for Houston Business Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hello, Houston. Trisha Stetzel here, bringing you another episode of Houston Business Radio. Today's guest is Anneliese Vance, also known as the Neurospicy Mommy, co-founder of Never Miss a Moment Consulting. As a fractional CMO, marketing, vendor, broker, podcaster, and yes, even a self-described human jungle gym for her two kids, Anneliese knows firsthand the challenges of running a business while raising a family. Alongside her husband, she built Never Miss a Moment Consulting to help fathers of family-owned businesses stop feeling torn between providing financially or being present at home. By taking marketing off their shoulders, she empowers them to reclaim their time, strengthen their family connections, and truly never miss the moments that matter most. Anneliese, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Trisha. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too. This is a long time coming.
I know. We've had so much come against us. I'm like, this must happen.
There's a reason, because
Yes.
you actually have something new to share that you wouldn't have been able to share had we not pushed this back just a little bit. Okay, so before we dig into everything else, tell us a little more about Anneliese and Never Miss a Moment Consulting.
Okay. So I always like to pay tribute to where I came from, and I am fourth generation female owned to start with, family owned business. And the reason I say to start with is recently in January, my husband and I, we changed our operating agreement to a partnership because honestly, it had been that way the whole time. Um, I won't get into the backstory of why it took almost 5 years to do that, but it's really it's a step forward from where I came from. Just it being a partnership. And that kind of will go into our topic today. Let's see. I am, as you said a lot of it. So I'm a mom of two under 6. I am a wife. I am a business owner. We own another business that we have owned since we were dating and engaged. And then Never Miss a Moment really was born out of my daughter was 8 months. I was watching her grow up before my eyes as I was sitting making calls because it was during COVID. And so I couldn't go out. So I had to make calls. And I'm like, I do not want to miss moments anymore. And my husband actually encouraged me to start the company. And I hope it's okay to say this, but God has really built the business the last 4.5 going on 5 years. It'll be 5 years in November. With some of the stuff we might get into, without his help, there is really no way that it would have worked without him. And we do serve dad-owned businesses, family-owned businesses, trades. And we help those people that they just carry the weight on their shoulders. And I don't know if you said this, but I always like to say that we take marketing off your shoulders so that if your kids are small enough or your grandkids, they can be up there instead. And work with a lot of marketing vendors. I can get into that if you want, just wherever you want to take the conversation. But we built a business that was literally the antithesis of where I worked for 14 years. It was a great foundation, literally like majority of our clients that followed us, I would not have without them. I'm very grateful for it, but we just saw things we knew the family-owned business needed that wasn't being provided. And so we decided to provide it.
Yeah, I love that. So, Anneliese, and by the way, I think you should tell your joke about your name so that everyone remembers before I ask you my first question.
Okay, so on the day that my husband asked my dad permission to marry me, and he was very, very nervous, my dad said, "She's Anneliese with option to buy. You can take her off the market." And my husband did do that 18.5 years ago. I did have to kick him under the table to let him know it was a joke because my husband is warmed up to dad jokes. My dad's a chemist. My mom's a biologist. They met in organic chem. They're really, really smart. So yeah, it helps people pronounce my name right. So I've learned to laugh at myself and tell it. And people always pronounce my name right after I tell it. So, and it fits into the whole dad-owned dad joke thing I love to do too. So. It all
Yeah.
works out.
And so now we don't have to kick each other under the table. It's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, good, good.
All right. So you talked about a family-owned business. Not only did you
Mhm,
grow up
mhm.
in a family-owned business, you
Yep,
now co-run or co-own or in a partnership with your husband in this family-owned business, and
correct.
you homeschool and all of the
Yes.
other things around just being a mom. What have those experiences taught you about the realities of blending
Ooh,
family and business?
not starting deep, are we, Trish, at all? Good grief.
Nope.
Oh, if I have to say the biggest thing is it's okay that it's hard sometimes. And it is okay to prioritize family, and to really be very clear on who your audience is. I think one of the beautiful things that God did, because we serve family owned businesses, we like to say that we get you because we are you. With our background, I either grew up and experienced what you're going through, heard it from my mom and what she experienced growing up, or have experienced it up till almost age 6, with my kids. And our customers get it, and it's just this beautiful community of us getting when they're struggling, them getting when we're struggling, and just a trust that it's going to get taken care of. It just may not look like the traditional route, and that that's okay. That the people that we're meant to serve are going to understand, that it just looks a little different, but know that we, for them, really are the best people to handle it because we then show them the same grace when they go through situations. I'd say
Absolutely.
that's quickly, there's a lot of lessons I've learned in 5 years, Trisha, but I would say that's the overarching umbrella of what
Yeah,
I've
I
learned.
love that. So the question that comes up for me, Annalise, is how do you do it all? Like, how do you find balance in
uh,
doing what you do?
yeah, the answer is I don't do it all, which I think is the testimony to my husband and I doing it as a partnership. And I love my mother and my grandmother. I did never met my great grandma with all of my heart. But they were more, I'm gonna do it. And this is public knowledge on LinkedIn, so it's not me throwing my parents under the bus, but their business didn't make it.
Mm,
And my dad had to go back to work at a critical age of, I think I was 14, which is a horrible time to have dad have to travel again because it's when a girl really needs her dad, not when she's in diapers. Need They need you in teens, dad. So do the business now. Be there for when they need you. Older, little side note. But um, my husband and I, we really have each other's backs. On Monday and Tuesday, I take the kids out. Um, we have they're actually starting dance and acrobatics, is going to be new this fall, so they start that next week. I have a moms group and that provides childcare where I get filled back up on Tuesdays, and that's very structured. And I don't know if we're going to get into the neurospicy part, but structure and routine is very, very important. And then my husband, the reason I can be on this call with you right now, actually has the kids out. So Wednesday, Thursday, we trade off. Um, and then also, I don't do everything in the business. You mentioned the marketing vendor broker, and I feel like explaining that term may be helpful.
mhm,
Um, so, one of the things that bothered me when I was in sales and had to sell things is it would get outsourced, but it would get outsourced to an employee. Well, nothing against employees, but you're only going to work so hard on it. And the thing about working with marketing vendors, which is just other business owners that do marketing other than we do, is they have a vested interest. They want to be referred to the next time they own their business. They're going to bring their A plus game. And then in return, they come back to us to bring our A plus game. So we do Google ad management in house. My husband is brilliant, and that's part of his neurodiverseness. And he's like, I can do this. And I'm like, fantastic. I do a lot of the business development, well, all of the business development, the data analysis, the CMO work, the that's where my neurodiverseness comes in, is finding patterns. And so we really get to blend our gifts together, but we don't have to do what the other person is good at. And then we have people that offer what we don't. And so I had to make a decision when we first started. Am I going to try and fake this and like hold it in and like onto that money? Or am I going to let someone who's going to do a really good job for them? And what I always say is I would rather take my percentage and let them win as well and go spend time with my kids. And so that's what I do. Is I don't do it all. And we do say no to some things. We are very much in our lane, and it's interesting right now. We have a client who we're trying to figure out if they're in our lane. We love them very much, but I think we're both on both sides trying to decide if it's a good fit, and being willing to step away sometimes if it's not. We've and it always seems to be in December, but we've at very critical times said no to people that just aren't in our lane anymore. And it allowed our business, kind of like pruning a rose bush, my parents are gardeners, to just flourish and grow back and just be very, very clear and to not be afraid to say no, like, hey, we're not a good fit for you, but this person might be, and then we can get a percentage, we still win. Um, their business still wins. So yeah, the answer is I don't. Or I would be in a pillow room somewhere because I literally I think that's also my message to business owners is you can't handle it. Like we really do like to take it off their shoulders. Like if you're in trades, you're really good at your trade, and if you're not good at marketing, it is okay. It is okay to have someone else handle that. It doesn't mean you suck or you're not good at your business. And I think my parents would have received help if it had existed back then.
Mhm.
But learning to ask for help has been so critical, and admitting, and I think people respect it too, that I don't do everything, and I'm very open about that.
I love that. And it's so important that we
Mhm.
step back and really do the things that we're exceptional at and don't do
Yes.
the things that we're not or we don't even enjoy doing, right? As
Amen.
a business
I
owner.
agree 1,000%.
Yeah. So I would expect nothing less, Annalise, than for you to know your ideal client market because, well,
Yeah,
you are a CMO after all.
true.
So you're very focused. You know
Mhm.
exactly who you want to serve. Tell me
Yeah.
more about the passion behind your business, really driving, helping fathers of family-owned businesses. Where does that passion come from?
Thank you so much for asking this question. So I love my father very much. We're very close. We actually, if you go on LinkedIn, we write a post together every Monday under hashtag Monday Moments. Um, I will not get into that and get distracted because I love my father very much. But my dad was born in 1950, typical baby boomer provider. And so he has always just had that, if I need to be an employee to provide, if I need to travel to provide, that's a way that I'm loving my family. And it took me a very long time to understand that. I think the older my kids got, the more I understood that was just him and how he did things. But as I mentioned, at 14, my dad did go back to work, and I won't get into the details here, but it made things more challenging.
Mhm.
And so I just have some personal experiences where I just know the importance of a father being present, and that providing their time um, can be just as important as providing financially, if sometimes not more important. Like my kids, they never like, man, I wish I had this. They're like, no, they're running to see daddy. Um, and just living that for the last 5.5 years, because all but for 18 months my husband has been home with our kids. My son never remembers my husband leaving because I'll tell you a quick funny story. So he would watch my husband walk out the door every morning, and then at nap time, he would go to daddy's office door, which was right by his bedroom, and say, he wanted to say goodnight to him before nap. And I was like, oh, daddy's working, which was true. My husband, or my son, never understood that my husband left. He's always been home. And my daughter has this very mature appreciation for what daddy does. Just she's, a little older, and she lived through it with us. But I've watched, my kids are so confident and so just everyone's kids are amazing, but um without getting into all of the background of neurodiversity, it routine and being able to depend on certain things is just so critical. And I'm so grateful that we were able to provide that for our kids. And something about me is I'm not that person's like, great, I've got it. Like, I'm someone who loves to pay it forward. It just lights me up. And so I love that I can get texts from my clients. Actually, a funny story. So we have two clients that are both have the same name. And one of them was texting me, and I thought it was the other. And I thought it was kind of weird that he was texting me because I knew everything was going okay with his account. And he texts me, he's like, I'm at the post office. Like, I'll call you in a couple minutes. And he called me, he's like, Annalise, everything's going great. Like, we don't need to talk. And that's kind of our joke, is like, he doesn't want to hear from me. Like, I don't want to hear from him because if I do, it means something is wrong. And so, um, and on the same token, the customer that did call us was just, he'd had a horrible experience and was just very, very afraid to step
Mm.
out again. And I was able to reassure him. But I love being able to come from that place of empathy and get texts from my clients of like, I'm on my vacation. I know you've got it handled. And they're with their kids and they're fully present. And, they have little girls and they have little boys. Like, little girls need to see how their future husband, in my opinion, how their future husband should treat them. And sons, I can't raise a man. I can nurture him, I can comfort him, but I cannot raise my son up into a man. And he's going to be 4 in December. And it's just very, very evident. I was telling my husband just a couple days ago that I don't feel equipped. And he's like, he needs time with me. And I'm like, I know. But just that he can provide that, and we can cover for each other and give our kids what they need in the moment that they need it, because it changes. And so, personally, it's very important to our family. But like I said, I love being able to pay that forward and them knowing like they've got this, they get us. They're living it, or like I said, like I lived it growing up. And really being able to provide that place that people can come to, trust, know that it's handled, and that they can go. Only they can raise their kids. I can't raise their kids. I can handle their marketing, but I can't raise their kids. I can raise mine. I always say I love my kids. Not sure about yours. Um, I'm sure they're great, but I wouldn't do for your kids what I do for my kids sometimes. Like, bless
Yeah.
the world. Last night with my son was a funny story, but anyway, it was a very long answer to your question. But yeah, I'm so passionate to be able to provide that opportunity for other dads and the moms. I always say that the husband and the dad is the thermostat in the house, right? So a thermometer goes up and down, but a thermostat, you set it and it stays there, or it should. And my husband really is that. He walks in and, peace comes into the room. And I just love being able to provide that opportunity for other dads to be able to do that, because then that takes pressure and stress off the wife. So it really just is like a full circle for the kids, the wife, the husband, and everybody. So I feel like I'm making an impact, and not just handling their marketing. Not that that doesn't make an impact, but the family stuff I think makes a
Thank you.
lasting generational
Yeah,
impact.
absolutely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that and being so vulnerable to tell
Yeah.
so much of your story. And I think it will resonate with people who are listening. So, if folks are already ready to connect with you, they want to learn
Mhm.
more, they just want to get to know you, what's the best way for them to reach out, Annalise?
Yeah. So two ways. One, I'm on LinkedIn. And I answer all of my own DMs. It's not AI. So I always tell people this little trick if you're on LinkedIn, and sometimes they limit your DMs. And I'm not saying this to get more comments on a post, but if you comment on a post and say, hey, I heard you on Houston Business Radio, I can then message you back. So if you're out of DMs, that's one way. The other is nevermissamomentconsulting.com. If you go to the last page on the right, we just updated. I think it's called Let's Connect. But I answer all of those messages, so you can send a message there. It goes right to my email. Me personally, I will answer it, not AI. As you can tell how I feel about AI, I might have lost some people there, but I'm a human and I am I'm going to connect back. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that. Thank you. And by the way, I know Annalise told this joke about Annelise, but that's not how you spell it. So I'm just going to spell it for you guys.
Oh,
It's
yes.
Anneliese, so that you
Yes.
guys can find her, Annalise Vance, not Annalise.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm
Vance is
just
like the vice
playing.
president. No, we're not related, in case anyone's wondering.
And just in case anyone's wondering. All
I get
right.
asked that about once a week.
I bet you do. All right, Annalise, you have talked a little bit about neurodivergent, and you shared
Mhm.
something with me this morning that you just
Mhm.
learned, which is why we
Oh,
had to push our
yeah.
date back to have this conversation this morning. And you shared with me about being gifted and neurodivergent. So can you talk a little
Yeah.
bit more about that, if you don't mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still learning about it. I actually learned about it in my mom's group yesterday and I laughed. I'm like, oh, this is why our meeting got pushed back, Trisha. I was thinking about you yesterday.
Love that.
Um, but if anyone wants to look it up, it's called Twice Exceptional. So it is either a child with autism, which is what my daughter is, what I was. Now I'm an adult with autism, and giftedness. And then my son and my husband are actually both have attention challenges. So their brain goes really, really fast and is gifted. So their brain goes like on turbo. Like my friend called my son the Flash. He'll be doing one thing over here and his body is here. You can't see my hands. His body's here and then his brain goes over here. And it's like, what just happened? But they are going to struggle with different emotional regulation. They're going to be really good at problem solving and puzzles. And so, actually, my son's Sunday school teacher is in the moms group because it's at my church. And she just gave me this great advice of just to follow his giftings. Um, which is what we did with my daughter. And so I think a lot of stuff with neurodivergence can overlap. It's not always the same, but my daughter danced since 6 months old. She literally danced on beat to like music that was playing before she walked. And she will choreograph dances. She's in ballet and tap and acro. Like I said, they're starting that next week. And then my son will be in the middle of Target and he'll be dancing to the beat. And he's more hip hop. So, like at his age, all he can do is ballet, but we're getting him into acro, which I think is going to be really good for him because I call him Monkey because he just is always climbing and jumping and flipping. And I don't know that this is the speed of his brain or if it's just a boy, but like he will act without thinking. It seems like he just like trusts himself. I think it's somewhat of a boy thing. Whereas my daughter is very analytical and processing. Like she'll still do it, but you can watch that she's processing before it happens. Um, and so yeah, just knowing that them compounded um just provides unique challenges. So I'm honestly still learning about it, but I was just really grateful to know, oh, there's a term for this. um, and still learning as always. But to be, because as we are heading into homeschool, as you mentioned, people are like, so how are you going to handle a gifted child with homeschool? I'm like, he's just going to do kindergarten with my daughter because he already knows everything for preschool. He was memorizing books at 18 months. Funny story. So I read to my kids before every bedtime and every nap time. So every time they go to bed, though my son is not napping, pray for me. Um, and so he's like, Mommy, I read to you. And I went, oh, haha, okay. Trisha, he read the entire book like he was reading it word for word. This was not like a I can read book. This was like, and I was like, honey, come here. And at that time, I was like, oh, okay. And his memory, that's another thing with twice exceptional kids that you might recognize kids, his memory, he will remember something from like 4 weeks ago. And I'm like, yeah, we did say that. And my husband have to look at each other like, okay, let me go back in the memory bank. Like, what is he referencing? Because it happened because he's remembering it. So it obviously happened and go, oh, yeah, buddy, I remember that. Because he'll remember sometimes better than we do. Um, so we got to be on our game of what we say and what we do, what we say we're going to do for him because he will hold us to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So It's
Okay.
it's a lot.
So, Annalise, not
Yeah.
only do you
I
run
know.
a business with your husband,
Yep.
I have heard most of you, if not all of you, are twice exceptional.
All of us. Yes.
And you're going to homeschool. That is
Yes.
a lot
Yeah.
for one couple to
Yes.
carry as business owners. So I'd
Yeah.
like to go back to the term neurospicy because I have a
Okay.
feeling that that is part of what we're bringing together here, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the neurospicy mommy and how that came about.
Okay. Well, I cannot take credit for the term. It's one I've heard from some people on LinkedIn, and I just think it's fabulous. It's another way to say neurodivergent, and you've just, got a little attitude. I think it's, if I have to say
Mhm.
my definition of it, is I own it. It's not a negative. It's not anything I'm ashamed of. I have a friend that says, you have a beautiful brain. And I do. I have some challenges that I have to kind of get ahead of, like when technology doesn't work and I have to reschedule with Trisha, I have to not freak out on the back end and tell myself there's a reason for this. It's okay. And just really do that faith over fear. I can get very fearful and controlling. And so I have to get ahead of that and decide I'm not going to be that way and ask myself, like, what is this costing me as a wife, a business owner, and a mom? And just decide, like, I'm not going to do that. Um, and then let's see. Yeah. So I found out at 40 that I had autism. I always kind of had hints of it, but in watching my daughter and my husband made the comment, he's like, it's like looking in a mirror. And I'm like, so I just started doing more research and I just accepted it's like, you know what? A lot of people are neurodivergent. It's okay. It means I'm really smart. I'm really good at patterns. I'm very, I think sometimes autism can get a bad rap because it's a spectrum, right? That's something I always like to say. Not everyone is that like prototypical, like what you might think of.
Mhm.
Um, and my daughter and I are both very empathetic off the charts, which is kind of atypical of like what you would think about with autism. And so just kind of figuring out what our flavor was. But I've had so much empathy for my daughter. And when I've done stuff for myself, it's helped me slow down with my son because my son can be very emotional. And I hope it's okay that I tell this story, but last night my son was constipated. He just had too much cheese for his little body. And so we were doing the midnight peas, and he felt like he had to do something else, and it never happened. And he was really upset about it. And it took almost an hour till 1 a.m. in the morning to calm him down. And just because I take care of myself for my neurodivergence, I have that. I'm filled up to take care of my kids. I'm filled up to go to respond versus react and go, okay, where are they coming from? Or to say, like, hey, buddy, like, we really need to find a new way to handle this. But he's 3, you know? Um, so it's this beautiful story of like, because I accepted it for myself and honestly stepped back. That was a lot of where the partnership came from. It let my husband take on a little bit more responsibility, which he was already doing and fully capable of. But again, relinquishing that control and not being fearful. So that's why it's just such a beautiful testimony for it to be a partnership versus the female owned. Nothing against female owned businesses, Rocket Girls. Nothing against it, just wasn't our story. I could not keep going at that pace. I had to take some stuff off of my plate and realize, like you said, like my gifting really is with my kids, really is empathizing with them. My husband's learning a lot. Um, but with him being actually gifted in ADHD, that is actually part of his challenge is processing and expressing emotions. So giving him grace. Um, yeah, so it's just it all worked out into this beautiful picture of where what could seem negative really became the beauty of it.
Mhm.
So,
So much that we've unpacked today, Annalise. And as we close up, is there one thing that we haven't tackled or one thing that we have that you'd like to just reiterate to the audience today about having a family-owned business and going through so many amazing things together as a family?
Um, I think one thing I would say is your family doesn't have to look like anybody else's. It's really okay to, accept where your family is at and that you're going to grow together. Because, what used to be challenges aren't, and then life presents you more, right? And I think, I mean, you mentioned my vulnerability, which thank you, because that is something I've really been working on. But really just to admit, like, when you need help, whether it is for marketing, or whether it is, I'm gonna throw my kid against the wall if I don't go grab a cup of coffee. You know, and like it's nothing against my kid, it's me. That's my self-care lacking at that time. But just like when you're aware that you need help to just ask for it, and it takes incredible strength, in my opinion, not weakness. And I think especially for the dads that we serve, admitting weakness is a big stigma. With dads, and a lot of dads that I follow and support on LinkedIn are breaking that stigma, and I love that. But just yeah, it it's strength, and it's loving your family and yourself, all the things, and your wife, to say like, I don't have it, I need help, and then we can do that for each other, and then we can do that for the people in our business, and um, you don't always have to have the answer either. Like sometimes you can be like, let me get back to you on that. Like take a pause. You really just, if I don't have peace about something, I normally take a pause. So I don't know who that was for because that was just dropped in my head. Um, but yeah, just own your story and let it play out, and the right people will be attracted to your story. I have a couple friends, I'm not trying not to name drop on here because I follow so many people on LinkedIn, but that your vibe will attract your tribe, is the best I've ever heard it put. And you don't have to be afraid if you're yourself that you're going to turn people away because they weren't going to be attracted to you anyway. So it's just easier to just be yourself, and then you don't have to pretend to be anybody else because that's exhausting. So
It is. Says the master marketer. I am
thank you.
just not surprised at all. You have so
Thank
many
you.
amazing things that we've talked about today. I really appreciate you being on the show. You guys, you need to go connect with Annalise, and the ways you can find her is her website at Never Miss a Moment Consulting, and her name is spelled Anneliese Vance, and you can find her on LinkedIn, which is how she and I found each
Yep.
other, as a matter of fact. So it's nevermissamomentconsulting.com where you can find that information. You guys connect with Annalise for just her personal story and just to meet her as a person, but also as a master marketer. Like, I hope that every man and wife who own a business together can see how important having um, taking the burden of marketing off their shoulders so they can put their kiddo on it. I think I didn't say it exactly right, but that's
That's
what I
okay.
heard, and I
Close
think
enough.
it's very heartfelt. So thank you again for being on with me today, Annalise. It's
You're
been
welcome. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. If you found value in this conversation that I had with Annalise, please share it with a fellow entrepreneur, veteran, or Houston leader ready to grow. Be sure to follow, rate, and review our show. It helps reach more bold business minds just like yours, and your business, your leadership, and your legacy are built one intentional step at a time. So stay inspired, stay focused, and keep building the business and the life you deserve.